seeing Mega Man like just a little bit taller and a little bit cooler destroyed my 12-year-old brain.
Anyway, so I'm prepping a lot for DragonCon because it'll have been my 10-year. It'll have been my 10-year anniversary since I went the first time.
10 years of DragonCon. How did you do it?
What, like first go to DragonCon or
how did you make it this far?
I took last year off, and I've been like taking more breaks or doing like maybe a couple of days because it's a big party. It's like,
oh yeah,
I can't do that anymore. I can't like drink every night like that for 4 days.
I went there for 1 day and I didn't do it anymore. I'll say that.
For me, it's a huge way to meet like so many people in the industry because like that's where it's all costuming. So you get like that 10 years ago when when I was getting like my start in a lot of this. And so it's a big deal to like go down with a really big costume that you worked really hard on. And like it was networking and also just showing off and like talking with people and like learning their techniques and stuff. In addition to doing all like the fandom and nerd stuff. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean it's fun. Like I'm busting my butt right now. I'm working on P from Lies of P with Sophia, and that's it's nice to like really try hard on a costume because I haven't done that in a couple of years. So it'll be nice. I'm looking forward to it. And I have plans to not party every night. So
no, you can't do that anymore. In fact, by the way, when you said I'm working on P, that was really funny because I did not know what you meant for like a split second.
It's really also like because if you search Lies of P, it just pulls up the game art. So you have to search Lies of PP. Which is a very, very mature, interesting, and I think clever joke that I just muttered there.
All right.
I think it reflects well on me.
I think you know what? We need to do more PP jokes. I vote yes on that. I was going to say, though, DragonCon.
I mean, that's really, like, that's what's occupying my time right now. It'll be fun, but...
I wish you the best. Good luck.
Yeah. You were telling me about buying stuff on the eShop?
Oh boy! So last night, this game I forgot that the demo for Bakeru is out. We're gonna get to that later. But also, I forgot that the demo for the remake of Shadow of the Ninja was out. So I'm like, oh crap, that's a cool game. I want to play it. And I'm in the eShop, and I guess my mistake was not using the search function. I thought I could just scroll down a little bit and find it, because it's not like it came out a long time ago. And let me tell you, like, I depressed myself last night just swimming in a sea of AI art hentai games, or games that at least have the word hentai on them. Like,
yeah, so okay, I hadn't seen like the AI art, but like I saw
oh my god, that's what it is now. They replaced all the art with just AI art because it looks better, right? Like compared to what they have, because their quality standards are non-existent.
But no, it's always like it'll be like hentai puzzle, hentai golf, hentai beach or something, right? Like it's all just the word hentai, even though it's just PG-13, right?
It's super soft core, and you can like it'll spoil it right away if you scroll down and see the ESRB. By the way, this is hilarious to me. An ESRB rating requires someone to play the game, so someone had to play. At least one person in the world played this content farm assembly line game, and I can't imagine them at the end of the day going like, it's a job. Because when do you snap after playing these boring ass? So what they are, let me get to that. What they are is visual novels. It's very much just, which by the way, I will 100% bet money that all the text is also just like Chat GPT. Like,
I'm sure.
Yeah, these are just like churn them out as fast as you can. make a fake company, make some kind of shell company, sell these for like $1 each, sell 5 different versions of each game, because like you'll note the reason it is oversaturating the market is because they re-release them as like, oh, this is the edition with 1 more character, oh, this is the complete bundle, oh, this is the vacation edition, just make up bullshit to re-release it over and over and over again.
I guess it is just like just desperate people with a Switch, because like every Steam Next Fest, I scroll down and like it's just a mountain of porn in there, man. And I'm no prude, but like, damn, y'all, this is the trending game? Okay.
You know
Let's go.
That's something I also thought about. Like, you could, like, I'm not that hard to figure out. If you put, like, the right kind of character design in one of these, I will bite. But that requires effort. That requires you, like, understanding people other than, like, the 13-year-old dumbass who, like, stole mom's credit card and is going on a shopping spree. And to just not have contempt for others, which is, to me, the most insulting thing about these games is that, like, I can tell the people making these are just like they think you're an idiot. They just want to fish for suckers intentionally.
Just buy real smut, darn it.
I know, and if not even, you don't even have to buy it. Oh my god. Anyway,
they make Zenless Zone Zero. That shit's free. They got all anime boobies in that one.
Yeah, that's another can of worms.
Well, welcome to Brain Lords, Video Games of the Mind, a panel-style discussion between artists and the art they love. I'm your co-host, Kyle.
And I'm Jorge.
And today we're discussing... what should a video game character look like?
Indeed.
First talking point, Jorge, tell me about Terry Bogard.
Terry Bogard.
What spawned this?
Terrence Beauregard.
Wait, hold on. Is that actually his name?
No.
Okay.
I should have lied. I should have just gone the whole episode lying about it. Anyway, yes, Terry Bogard. He is now the SNK's firstborn. We thought for a long time it was Kyo Kusanagi. Nope, not anymore. We're like, Terry Bogard is the firstborn. He has made many appearances, ranging from Smash Brothers to Fall Guys, and recently Street Fighter 6, where I noticed an interesting phenomenon, Kyle, which I have no name for, but I will describe to you.
Okay. I'll see. Let me see if I can put a name to it. You describe to me what's going on.
So,
because I have a vague idea, but I'm not as tuned into this as you are. So go ahead, please.
Right. So the thing is, first thing you notice is that they definitely, for this portrayal of him, took some liberties with his design. He looks much more... Well, the Street Fighter 6 style tries to lean more realistic, but also with just the right amount of exaggerated features to make characters really expressive. And all.
Yeah, it's hard to nail in, but it's like anime realism has been kind of the style for not just Street Fighter.
I feel like, in my personal opinion, I feel like they have not nailed it until now. I personally did not like how Street Fighter 4 looked. I did not like how Street Fighter 5 looked. But 6, I feel like it's finally, like, they finally have the years behind them of experience to really start making like a very like a blurry line between like realism and cartoon, which is great.
Okay, see, what's interesting is not to tangent too hard here, but I thought 4 looked good. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I enjoyed the style of 4. I did not like 5, but then 6 looks good to me. So that's interesting that, like, for you, they just haven't nailed it until now.
I will say that 4 did something interesting with the whole like ink brush stuff.
Oh god, I love that. Yeah, that consistent style was really cool.
That kind of thing was cool. I just did not like the character designs in 4. And then 5 just kind of took that all away and made everyone look like clay. Like they're made of plasticine. Is that how you say it?
Plastiline?
Yeah. Everyone looks like
I would know.
Everyone looks like a clay model, but not in a charming like Wallace and Gromit way, just in a ew, what have they done to Ken kind of way. Anyway, speaking of, so we get Terry Bogard in the newest reveal trailer for the upcoming season, and fan reactions are mixed, which was surprising to me. They definitely wanted him to fit the world of Street Fighter 6, but that required kind of giving him more realistic facial features. And people saw that and went, ew, what happened? And
so,
to
okay.
me, the reason this is an interesting thing to me is that, like, well, everybody has, like, a very strong reaction to Terry and what he looks like in Street Fighter 6. But consistently, something I notice is that no one can tell me what he's supposed to look like, which is the topic of this episode. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
No, what I was going to say was, so this is not his first appearance in a 3D game, like, by no means.
Nope.
So have other games, because I'm not as versed in SNK. Like, I know SNK the same way that, like, you know, someone might know Darkstalkers from, like, Morrigan and, like, 2 other characters. But I know he's been 3D in a couple of other renditions, and, like,
wait,
have those nailed
say
it?
Darkstalkers is SNK?
No, I say, like in the same sense that, like, someone that plays, like, Capcom games, they might know Darkstalkers from, like, 2 characters.
Thank you for clearing that up. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, I know, like, the most popular, like, handful of SNK characters. I've maybe played, like, an hour's worth of SNK in my life, but not much.
Right, so I believe that the first time Terry was in 3D was in the PlayStation 3D Fatal Fury game. I think it was... I have it right here. It's called Wild Ambition, yeah. I had to look it up because I thought it was Sega Saturn, but it's PlayStation. Yes, so as far back as the 90s, the late 90s, Terry has had, like, a 3D version of him. And as recent, too, as Smash Brothers and King of Fighters 15, Terry has had, like, a 3D makeover. Oh, and now the new Fatal Fury, which is, like, a sequel to Mark of the Wolf, is going to have an older version of him. And the interesting thing is that, like, in all these depictions of him, he doesn't really have, like, any strong, distinct facial features. He just looks like a guy, which is what he always looked like, and what he always was meant to be in the beginning. Just, like, he's American and he fights. That's it. That, like, back then, those were his qualities. On the surface, you know, like, of course he has a background, he has a backstory, he has an attitude, and he ends up, like, developing his trademark quirks. But on the surface, Terry is just a guy. And Street Fighter, in my opinion, I feel like I'm jumping ahead of here a little bit too much, but I feel like that's what Street Fighter 6 did with him. They just made a guy, but he's real now. And people didn't like that.
So, I mean, I guess, like, but, like, other 3D versions of it have been, like, fine, or do you feel like fans haven't had an issue with those?
Yeah, they haven't had an issue with them because the thing is that, like, if you look at them, and I encourage you to do so if you can, if you look at him in King of Fighters 15 and Smash Brothers Ultimate, he's fine. He looks fine, but he's very inoffensive, if that makes sense. Like, his character design is very much designed for, like, mass appeal. There's nothing really distinct about it. You could kind of block out all of his features except for the face, and I don't think you'd be able to tell who it is. You know what I mean? I feel like Terry's identifiable characteristics are actually in his, like, silhouette, in his clothing.
I feel like they're in his biceps.
Yeah, like, he's got that ripped jacket with the big arms. Those things define him more than his actual face does, which is an interesting thing I noticed when I started asking myself this question. Like, what is he supposed to look like? Because, like, a lot of people know what he's not supposed to look like, but they sure as hell don't. They don't have an answer to it, which is the fascinating thing. That's the phenomenon. It's like everybody's impassioned about, oh, he looks off. He looks, I don't know, he's kind of weird looking. His eyes are looking weird. And I'm like, okay, well, because I did ask, like, some of my local friends, like, okay, well, what is he supposed to look like? And they just sent me a screenshot of King of Fighters 15 Terry, and I'm like, that's just an anime man. That's American anime man. I don't understand. I don't see, aside from, like, his red hat, his ripped jacket, his jeans, and long blonde hair, I don't really see any distinct features in the thing that you're complaining about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like I will say, like I'm looking at just a few screenshots from like the SF6 promo for him. I think probably the worst thing is that like, okay, yeah, in this cutscene when he's staring directly at the camera, there is a little bit of uncanny valley. But
that's the screenshot everyone shares. Yeah.
Yeah, but like I'm looking at something that's like maybe 2 seconds prior to that, where he's just sort of like looking at like a very slight 3/4, holding his hat with his fingertips.
Yeah.
And it looks fine.
Yeah.
I think it's just the smile is just it's just a weird shot. I think people are maybe reacting more strongly to like that one picture. Because, 99% of the time, he's going to be turned to the side about 4 feet away from like any viewing angle.
And most of his face is going to be covered by his... Not most of his face, but like the eye portion of his face is always going to be covered by his hat.
Yeah.
So those are
I guess,
not things you're meant to look at.
Okay. Let's go to a talking point then. What does Terry even look like? Is he a face? Is he a vibe? Is he an aura? Or is he a brand? So let's talk some design language here. So describe me like, you said Terry's just a guy, but like, what kind of guy is he? I mean, I've got some art pulled up of Terry right now. And obviously like the artist's depiction of Terry like can wildly change sort of the vibe of him. But, like, the general thing I've got is he's ripped as hell. He's really he's lanky.
Yeah, he's tall.
Tall.
He's cool as fuck.
Yeah, he looks, like, rough and tumble, but he's got some, like... It's not just biker dude. He's got some, like, formal wear. Or, sorry, some, like, casual wear. Like, he's got the sneakers. He's got the Converse. So, like, it's like, a little bit of a tough guy biker vibe, but he's, like, a little bit more, like, sporty, friendly... So
yeah, he's supposed to be like the good guy, and I don't know how familiar you are with Fatal Fury or King of Fighters, but he does have, when you play the games, his character fleshes out much more through his fighting style and his like attitude when you're playing as him.
Mm-hmm. See, and I haven't played in a long time, so I'm just gonna like describe what I see here.
Okay, sure.
But like,
sure.
Every picture
I'll guide you. My child. To the path of Terry.
So, he's got a lot of the signifiers of like, your jackets, your like fingerless gloves. So he looks like he definitely like throws punches with like a considerable weight to them. But every picture I see, he's got usually like kind of a boxer stance. His legs are usually bent a little bit. So he seems like comfortable with his strength. He seems like casual and confident, but not in like, he doesn't seem like he's going to challenge you in a cocky way. He seems like, I don't know, like he's just like enjoying being in the spotlight. Like there's very few pictures of him actually looking angry.
Yeah, I think enjoying being in the spotlight is a good one. He does have his moments of cockiness, but I think what makes Terry is that he has that like cool and tough exterior, but he's a sweet guy underneath. Mm-hmm. He's an orphan. He was raised in the streets, so he had to grow up to be tough, but that did not change his heart.
I see here also, it seems like he's got a bit of a D cup.
Bro, Smash Brothers like titted him up, which is great.
Who do you think has the larger chest? Like male Terry Bogard or female Terry Bogard?
That is up for debate. I think like male Terry Bogard in Smash Brothers probably bigger than SNK heroines. I don't know how to pronounce that in English. Heroines. Mm-hmm. In that all girls SNK game that came out recently, where Terry got gender bent.
Trans icon Terry Bogard. So I guess is my like is my view of Terry here like right? Like is he just kind of like friendly tough guy?
Right. Mostly right. Yeah, he's there's you were able to read a lot of that just through looking at his design. The most important part is that he's cheerful. He's he's got like a goodness in him, despite sometimes being like, yeah, I'm cool.
What's funny to me is like in thinking of like what what is this character trying to portray? He's almost like you mashed Ken and Ryu together, because he seems like he's into fighting, but he's also just having a good time.
That part I don't think so. I think, to SNK's credit, when Fatal Fury came out, they really wanted to make a unique character to stand out from. Like, he still has the American character by a Japanese person trope, or by the perspective of Japan tropes. But in my opinion, what helps Terry stand out, and the reason he's become such a evergreen character, is that he is distinct from the regular fighting game tropes. He kind of does give a little bit of flavor and spice to that. He could have an uppercut, but he doesn't. He has like a kick, like a tornado kick that goes upward.
Doesn't he punch like little ground quakes?
Yeah, he does the power wave, which is, instead of being like a projectile that hovers over the ground, it actually travels through the ground. Or on top of it. I'm trying to remember the name of his fighting style. He was like trained by a martial artist and everything.
Okay.
Yes.
What would you say is like the difference between like SNK versus Street Fighter, like as a vibe?
As a vibe? Okay, yeah. This is a good question, because like Street Fighter, I feel like, was meant to be more a physics engine than a game, if that makes sense. Like, don't get me wrong, like it is like Street Fighter did define what the 2D fighter, or not defined, but it refined, it polished what a 2D fighter was going to be for the next decades or so. But in terms of character design, the thing I never liked about Street Fighter was that it's very derivative and also very generic, especially if you go as far back as like 2 and 1. Everyone's just like a regular guy, whereas in Fatal Fury specifically, there's more of like it ironically felt more like a Street Fighter kind of game, because everyone is like, the game takes place in a smaller area compared to like Street Fighter 2, which was like around the world. So everyone is kind of like local to Southtown, I believe it's called. And it really is like the story of that city, as opposed to like the just like, make a generic character from India, make generic character from Russia approach that Capcom took. Everyone in here has like a little more effort put into them, because it's like, well, they can't all be American man, so what do we do? And that kind of brought about like this really cool vibe, this really cool like street fight, urban rain, pun intended, if you will, kind of vibe. And then they expanded upon that with King of Fighters, and earlier than that, Art of Fighting, which I believe came before Fatal Fury. Art of Fighting was the game that was kind of copying Street Fighter a little more than Fatal Fury did.
So I guess what is it about that like what's it about this trailer that's not meshing? Like, is it just purely the 3D graphics, or?
I think people like studying. I went back and like looked at some reactions, and people were mostly pretty cool with it up until Terry took his hat off. Like, I'm not even kidding. People were like, "Oh, I mean, the teaser before that was just an anime teaser for the next wave of characters." And while that was cool, because I believe they were like trying to reference like the Fatal Fury animes, and I want to say that Masami Obari actually came back to direct it, to kind of add that level of legitimacy. I'm going to confirm that in a minute, but until then, yes. So we didn't really get any character footage until this video came out, the trailer. And then it was fine. It was like everyone was excited because you see the stage is like a famous bar from Fatal Fury. So there's going to be more than just Terry to reference this world, which is exciting. And then they're introducing characters that kind of look like other Fatal Fury characters. So you're like, oh, they're gonna add like clothing for your creative character. That's SNK. That's great. Again, people received this pretty well, aside from the fact that like there was no real gameplay footage. That was one disappointing thing, and the fact that when he took his hat off, everyone went, "Oh, that's weird."
So maybe if they had conveyed like a couple of attacks, in a little trailer sting, that would have quelled any of these like weird feelings, because then it would have showed like more the accurate vibe of what you're actually going to see.
Yeah, what you're going to look at 90% of the time. I feel like if they had shown gameplay, like actual gameplay footage and not just like a few moves, I think it would have, like, people would have not focused so much on the blemishes of that trailer. Yes.
Yeah, because I didn't, like, I saw like some of the clips of him being introduced, but like I didn't watch the full thing. If you had asked me to like describe like what the trailer was, I probably would have said like, yeah, it probably shows the cutscene, he jumps in, and then it cuts to like a couple of like attacks and like ends with a classic finisher. Like that's every character reveal trailer.
It is now, unfortunately, and it's surprising to me because this character is going to come out in like 2 months now, so I don't know why they didn't show any gameplay.
Well, let's move on to a new talking point. Speaking of
real quick before we move, I'll answer the question. I'll answer the question more directly. I think Terry, at the end of the day, is a vibe. He is definitely a vibe.
Yeah, no, it definitely seems like you're going to experience Terry like in play. It's not going to be a cutscene. Yeah,
I think the longer you play it, the less weird it'll look, in my opinion. But yeah, we can move on to the next talking point.
Okay, so we're talking about Street Fighter 6 and King of Fighters. Okay. So video game crossovers were once an excellent opportunity to examine familiar characters in new and different art styles. Has that changed now?
Oh boy, we can talk about other crossovers for this.
Yeah, I mean, I think
feel. You want to go first, or you want me?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind, the easiest thing, is Fortnite, because that has Street Fighter characters in it.
Oh my god! And like,
which that's a good connecting point, because people didn't like those Street Fighter characters.
It was 50-50. People thought, oh, they look neat, but then it was like, oh, they kind of lose something being here. Actually, I wanna look at Ryu again in Street Fighter. What did he? Because he looked weird.
See, I'm gonna pull this up as well, because I remember the thing that bugged me the most is I saw Chun-Li and like she doesn't have hips.
Oh well, she does have an ass. I don't know if you examined her as close as I did. Oh my god, yeah, this Ryu is rough. Okay, and see, I don't know. This is like what the topic is, because I don't think there's anything wrong with him. He just looks like a Fortnite guy, but for some reason
I remember too. I think people also were a little bugged by the fact that Chun-Li does not look very Chinese. In the
oh wow, that's like a thing though. Like whether or not Chun-Li looks Chinese has been like a subject of discourse for a long time, and I'm actually happy that Street Fighter 6 leaned in on that. Whereas like in the past they were afraid of it. You know what I mean? Like. There was like fans would act weird about it, like, oh, the Asian character looks Asian. Why? What's going on? Why doesn't she look anime? And it's like weird. It's like a weird discourse that happes that I don't even know if I want to get into. I feel like that's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, but yeah, going to Ryu though, he's very triangular. His jaw's very chiseled in the Fortnite skin versus like, I don't know. Yeah, I think like it's that very plainer ZBrush style that a lot of these Fortnite skins have, which does look good. Like, it's a polished art style. I think maybe it gets a little frustrating when every 3D character has to look just like super soft, like angles everywhere.
Yeah, I think that's because I didn't know what you meant at first, but then I thought, wait, like soft angles, everything's kind of blocky but also not pointy. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay, then that's what I agree. That is what I thought when you said that. And I don't want to be angry at it, because like I do like that he's different. I do like that he looks different, which is something I like about crossovers, is when characters take on that language, that visual language that belongs to that world they're in now.
Yeah, no, and like I think to a certain point, like you have to translate it, and also like to work in the game. Some of some of the issues they run into is the fact that like these things have to be rigged to make sense for like the physical space their game occupies or the digital space their game occupies. So like, you know, I know that they had to, when the Family Guy skins were there, like they couldn't do normal Peter Griffin because it didn't make sense for the rig. And I guess they didn't want to redesign their entire game for just one bonus character. So like, you know, there's some limitations, and I get that maybe some stuff just like if Chun-Li's thighs are too big, it's not going to be good for the meta to just target her butt. I don't know, man. But
oh my god. See, that does make me think of the brand side of this, because other characters in Fortnite don't take liberties, you know, like Goku. They put Goku in this game and they just made him cel shaded.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, why was the line drawn here? You know what I mean? Like, why does Goku have to look like Goku, but Peter has to look like not Peter?
It's safe to assume too that like there's literally no way that like if you see any character on Fortnite, like assume that a minimum of 2 conference calls and at least 20 emails were sent back and forth. Like minimum. That's being optimistic too. There are probably 100 emails back and forth and at least like 6 conference calls for every step of this character getting approved or disapproved. So like
I bet
someone had to say yes multiple times on this thing.
Yes and no. Like they probably said so many no's. I bet you that like the Fortnite staff made their own version of Goku, like the what do you call it, the ZBrush version of Goku?
Yeah, the polish brush.
Yeah, the polish brush. And Toei Animation went, fuck no. And that's what happened. Same thing with the Naruto characters. I'm pretty sure those are cel shaded too. And again, it's like, so what's the point of the crossover if these characters just look the same way they always do? Like, in my opinion, I feel like that kind of defeats a little bit of the purpose, and it just becomes what people think of it cynically. Like, this is just an advertisement. Like, this is just telling me, oh, go watch anime.
Which, you know, ultimately a lot of that is, but I get what you're saying. It's like, I'm playing Naruto in Fortnite, so I want to see Fortnite Naruto. If I wanted to see Naruto, I'd play like Shippuden or something, but I'm not.
Sure, right? Like you pop in the Ninja Storm game, and it's like, oh, there he is. There is Naruto. Yeah. But I don't know. So, for some reason, some characters get the exception, and I have a feeling it's because like the companies have become more and more protective of these characters as properties rather than characters or any kind of artistic expression.
Yeah, I do think it's worth for the listeners at home. You know, we're both artists that are used to dealing with like licenses. I think it's worth at least pointing out like what a style guide is or a style sheet.
Oh sure, yeah.
Because I guess I thought of a good quick way to summarize this, and feel free to correct me here because you probably have much more experience than me. But like typically when you're dealing with a license, they will give you usually a PDF that has kind of everything that you need to refer to. If it requires like expressing like do's and don'ts of the characters, they'll lay that out, but oftentimes it's just like the character in their most like core pose with like maybe Pantone colors, or just the PDF is just accurate to what colors you need to refer to. Sometimes they'll provide like logos or text or symbols if you might want like a very flat view of that. And it's just like a really good catch-all, like here's exactly how the character is, refer to that. And it can be extremely helpful, but other times, like, depending on how the company chooses to use that style guide, it can be very, very restrictive.
Yeah. It doesn't leave room for artistic expression, which is kind of, if you're working a job, it kind of comes with the experience, I guess.
Well, and sometimes it's extremely helpful because it's like, I don't have to talk to someone. I know, like, if I match this color of blue for Sonic on this PDF that Sega gave me, I know it will be fine.
Oh, we're going to get to
that. So, like, in that sense, it can be really useful. But, like, I think companies will then become, like, very, very protective of, like, you know, I guess you'll give them a first pass, and that's when things really start getting complicated, and they say, like, what can or can't be done based on, you know, your good faith interpretations of a character. So I don't know, it's really just how they handle that style guide. It's not, you know, all of them are going to have some sort of guide for you to follow, but it's how they enforce it, I guess, is a word.
Yeah, it's a case by case basis. Some developers and some companies are more lax, and they're like, you know what, we do want to see what you can do with this, and those are the best ones to work with. The interesting thing that you mentioned, or that you didn't mention, which is what happens to me, is the opposite. When they don't give you character style guides, or they don't give you like brand bibles, they just like, yeah, do a thing, and if we don't like it, we're just gonna say no.
Oh god, yeah, because it's the easiest thing in the world to get a no out of a company.
It kind of is, yeah. But all that being said, I guess it really depends on on who approaches who. So if a licensee approaches a licensor, you're much more like beholden to like the will of the corporation. And if it's the other way around, they're like, well, we want to see what you can do, and then that becomes a lot more that has a lot more wiggle room in it for designers and producers and stuff like that.
Would you say it's different now versus, like, I mean, we can't speak for how doing a job like this was, 10, 15 years ago, or like 20, 30 years ago, but like, would you say it's much different now?
In terms of, if you're asking, like, is there more focus on branding rather than having that like sense of belonging, like look, we're part of the thing, then I feel like it kind of has leaned more towards like the marketing side of things. I feel like the only time most companies will afford freedom of expression or interpretation, I should say, freedom of interpretation for their brand and characters is like if that company is approached by Funko Pop or something. Like, well, of course, like, we can have a Naruto Funko Pop, and they just make it look like the Funko Pop. Like, that's fine.
I remember I got so excited when I saw these Steven Universe Funko Pops, because like the creator Rebecca Sugar fought tooth and nail to like not use the standard Funko design. Like, they were like, no, these characters have a distinct body shape. You are following it.
I mean, more power to her, but also I feel bad for Funko because that must have been terrible. But yeah.
Anyways, well, and like, I guess, looking at something like Daicon 4,
ooh,
it's really novel to see all the like characters crossing over like that. But now you see something like that, and it just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Like, there was kind of the thing my eternal love of Daicon comes, or specifically Daicon 4, that intro, comes from the fact that was made by people who like were just fans of shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so their like devotion to accuracy is just kind of beholden to their own. Like
but it's genuine too. It's like, yeah. They're not trying to sell anything other than this event that is for fans, like for people who just want to have that expression.
Yeah. And maybe that lovely. Is a weird example just because it's fan made. It's not a branded thing.
But I think it's a great example actually, because like it expresses what's so exciting about putting all these things together, especially when you have control over that. It's like I got excited when I saw Darth Vader in anime. When I first saw that little trailer, I was like, oh wow, I guess they like Star Wars over there. That was like genuinely cool to see. Whereas the now, if I see Darth Vader somewhere, I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, the DragonCon prep has not gotten too rough, but I can tell like I'm going to be putting that video on in the next like week.
Is that a comfort video?
Oh, it definitely gets me hyped for like, I want to make shit. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm not the Star Wars nerd, but like, yeah, I'm not excited to see Darth Vader in Fortnite or in Soul Calibur the way I'd be excited to see Darth Vader in Daicon.
Soul Calibur Darth Vader, there's a fucking... I think, to me, that was like the beginning of the end. When like, as in my personal crossover experience, was like seeing Darth Vader in Soul Calibur and going, why? Like, instead of being excited, I just went, why?
It definitely feels like it's... Like, yeah, there is a certain threshold we've crossed where like things are a much more calculated, like, this is to represent X thing, to keep brand relevancy, so we can tie in or hold over until this big promotional drop. Like, it is such a much more calculated thing.
Something real quick I want to bring up is how when I was doing a little bit of research on the Terry thing, just to kind of like gauge people's opinions, I also watched some reaction videos just to see like maybe when you're on camera you have a different opinion, you know what I mean?
Yeah, watch the person screaming at the fighting game trailer. It's a time-honored tradition.
And sure enough, like the people who were reacting to Terry on video had more positive things to say. I only noticed a few of them when he took his hat off, went like, "Oh." And again, it's like, is this part of the characters as brands, or are these people seeing what I don't see? Where it's like, or actually, what I wish people would see is like they're just accepting that this character's here. There's no like, oh, look at his face, it looks weird, why does it look weird? And they're just like, oh shit, I get to play as Terry. Like that. Yeah. That's the end of the story for them there, which can be a good thing.
Those are the people that are reacting like to a video like that are the people that just want to be excited about a video game character.
True, like that already has the...
Yeah.
They already came in with that in mind. Yeah.
So I guess then let's go into our next talking point. What defines a character for fans? What things do they embrace and deny? Are fans more readily embracing characters as brands or rejecting them?
Yeah, so for this we can step away from the Terry Bogard.
Certainly, we've spoken a lot on that.
AKA Terrence Beauregard. And kind of start going into more like, let's say, yeah, like Darth Vader and Soul Calibur. That kind of thing, you know?
Because I feel like people on the ground level are not necessarily looking at this like it's a brand, but it certainly is like a how do I put it, like these crossovers are like a shotgun approach to get like new markets of people. And so like when you see your guy, like you're excited for your guy because it's from your favorite thing.
Yeah.
And then when you see, you know, something from like another series that just doesn't hit, you're like, oh cool, but like it's weird. It's like it's just sort of this roulette on like hitting the right person at the right time for whatever crossover event there is. Like, I'm trying to think of how to word this, but yeah, it's just, I don't know. It feels like it's just ticking off boxes, I guess would be a better way of putting it.
Are you saying when the characters are put in these crossovers, it's just there to be like, oh, we have this guy, we have that guy.
Yeah, or it's like, this is for this group of person, and those people are genuine and excited. Like, they're not looking at it as a brand, but then when it's a character that you don't care about, then it's just like, oh yeah, of course, like, they're going to get the Assassin's Creed character in here because they got a new Assassin's Creed coming out, so...
Yeah, and I guess, like, that's the best case scenario, but the interesting thing, too, however, is that when a character shows up in a new thing, and they have a different interpretation of them, the pushback I feel comes from that, I guess, mentality of like, well, this character looks this way and it should look that way. And I wonder if that's like more corporate brain than consumer brain. You know what I mean? Like, it's kind of bleeding into people. Like, oh, why is this different? It shouldn't look like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And people aren't going to be able to like, they're just going to see the reveal. They're not going to like have that split second conversation of like, what does it make sense for this character be in this other style, in this other world? You know, you're right. It's like Chun-Li just needs to feel like Chun-Li to me based on what I've played from these games. I'm not going to think about what Chun-Li means in Fortnite because I'm just going off of like what I've experienced and what Chun-Li is based on like the pre-established brand.
Yeah, and I think that's the better mentality to it. Whereas, like, for things, I don't know if you're familiar with Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Yeah, the most recent one.
Yeah, the last one that came out, which was... It's an interesting case study into, like, when brands want too much control of a crossover.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so something that I always appreciated about the Versus series, Capcom's Versus series, is that they really gave like a new light and a new a stylistic approach to the, and it's actually my love of crossovers comes from like when I first played Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and saw all these different characters interpreted in such like bold and interesting ways, and it kind of made me realize like this is really cool. It's really cool that all these characters are together and they all fit, like, visually, stylistically, and they all feel like they belong in the same world. Whereas, like, later on, we have a post-MCU world, and then suddenly Marvel wants to take the reins of character design. And because of that, a lot of MVCI came off as, like, very controlled, very branded, very lacking in, like, I don't know, like, taking chances on things. It was very safe. It was very by the numbers, like you said, or like checkmark kind of, like, roster. Very.
Yeah, it didn't take us for a ride.
They did not take us for a ride. They let us off the ride and then just kept going. So,
yeah, no, I did do some research, kind of trying to look at different video game styles and adaptations, and that was one that I really, thinking on it, like, I did not like a lot of the way the characters were depicted in Infinite.
No.
It felt really off, and it was, like, kind of the wrong, uncanny version of that, like, anime realism. And you're right. Like, I think that once Marvel became much bigger of a thing, they had to match the MCU style. They couldn't be too anime. It wouldn't work. So it just kind of clashed in this weird way.
Yeah, it kind of took away what made it interesting, which was, like, these characters, like, Capcom genuinely loves these Marvel characters and wants to portray them in the most flattering way. And then, ironically, Marvel just doesn't feel that way about their own characters.
Like, I was looking up just like, what does the Hulk look like in Infinite versus Marvel vs. Capcom 2? And, like, MVC 2 Hulk looks like he would make sense fighting rival schools, but it
yes,
it doesn't in Infinite.
Yeah, something that an interview with one of the devs, I'm trying to remember who it was specifically, but they were kind of going into, like, they really wanted to combine these two worlds, but they realized, like, well, we would have to power scale all the Capcom characters to make sure they can fight the X-Men. And again, this is something that I feel like they wouldn't do that now, but they did it back then, and that added to just how cool it is. You know what I mean? Like Ryu's Shinku Hadoken is just a bigger Hadoken normally, but in MBC1 it's like a Kamehameha. It's like a giant beam of energy, and everything is just sort of
like
that.
Everything's, like, scaled naturally though, because it's the same beam as Iron Man, so it works.
And it's designed so that all these characters can occupy the same space, and that's what I loved about it. It's like they're trying to make sense of it, and it just doesn't feel like that's the thing anymore. When Goku's in Fortnite, he can Kamehameha, but he also has, like, an M16 or whatever the fuck gun they use in those fucking games. Like, okay, that doesn't. I don't feel like I'm engaging with anything Dragon Ball Z right now.
Yeah, whereas in MVC, I mean? Like, every character's got, like, their version of an uppercut or something that makes sense for, like, how that character would deliver it, and it's sold, like, landing with the same weight and intensity.
Yeah,
or if it doesn't, it's, like, faster or slower and stronger.
Like, seeing Gambit in MVC1, like, blew my mind. Just, this character was cool already. How did they make it more cool? Like, well, I don't understand.
Who's the artist for Marvel vs. Capcom 1 and 2? Because, like, that I think is the defining feature of those games.
It's hard all to of them drawn in that style. A lot of, well, Bengus and Akiman tend to be, like, the more common artists, and sometimes Kinu Nishimura, but, like, it's hard to say because a lot of Capcom games were actually, like, a collaborative effort of, like, all their in-house artists, so it's hard to point at one and say they did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I'm mostly referring to, like, the character portrait style. Like, is that all one person, or is it multiple, like you were saying?
I think that one was Bengus, for the character portrait specifically.
Yeah, because I feel like that is such a unifying factor in it that, like it's almost like everything is sort of like has a breath from that vision and is, like, consistent from, like, the concept too.
True. It helps that they have one guy doing every portrait, because then that they all look like they belong together.
Yeah.
Rip him when MVC2 came out and 60 fucking characters were put in the game.
Yeah. So, like, another game that I think is more modern than this, but I think, like, works in how disparate it is like Tatsunoko versus Capcom. Has wildly different character styles, but, like, they all mesh pretty well. Yeah. Like it's got that, like, anime realism, but, like, I think everyone in there, like, it meshes in a way that I think makes sense, even though, like, some characters just visually are just completely different creatures than others.
Yeah. Like, even if you have, like, full-size Karis and Tekkaman, Zero shows up and he's a manlet, but that's fine.
Yeah, but fighting, like, Frank West and then, you know, Gatchaman, like, it all kind of works, even though these characters, for the most part, are so disparate.
That is one of my favorite rosters, by the way. Like, Tatsunoko versus Capcom. It's one of the best versus.
Who did you main in Tatsunoko versus Capcom?
Of course it was Zero. And Tekkaman Blade, which they added in the US version, or the upgrade version in Japan. The updated version. They put Tekkaman fucking Blade. I don't know if you've ever seen that anime, by the way. It's fucking awesome.
I don't think so, but no, I was Frank West and Duranjo all day, every day.
Duranjo! That game introduced me to Yatterman and Duranjo. And
see,
God.
I had a friend who was like a Yatterman freak that like explained to me like, no, you don't understand. Like Jesse and James are just cribbing the shit.
Yes, they were the comedic bad guy, the joke bad guy, and with like their schemes and the what is it, the dynamic, like they were a trio, just like Jesse, James, and Meowth, and that stuff is cool. Also Duranjo, oh my god, what a babe. Anyway,
you got me stunned with that comment.
Because it's true, fucking queen. Like, god damn it, I love her design. I have a soft spot for like cartoonishly evil women, and Duranjo is like the grandmother of that. So.
Yeah. Have you seen the any of the live action Yatterman?
No, I haven't.
They nail doing
nice.
anime designs in real life. It is so zany, and they like lean so hard into these like oversized costumes. It looks really good.
That is so hard to pull off, but like when they do, you marvel at it. You just cannot help but be in awe.
Okay. So let's talk about a different crossover, specifically Mario versus Sonic. When do fans become the arbiters of character design? And what is it about the paradox between video game characters being represented and redesigned exclusively for different mediums of film?
So yeah, here's the thing that I thought about when thinking about Terry Bogard. I was like, at least this is not like Sonic. And let me explain what I mean by that. I had no idea that every different Sonic design that comes out becomes the subject of utmost scrutiny in the Sonic fandom. Like, right down to what fucking color they use on his quills. I did not know this. It was, in fact, when I found out about it, it was kind of blowing my mind how like, oh, I just thought that Sonic Generation Sonic was cute, and they're like, no, that's not real Sonic. That's an imposter. Sega wants you to think that's classic Sonic, but they just want to separate. And I'm like, what is going on here? I don't understand. I thought it was just cute, and y'all are offended by it.
Is this like some Facebook post that's like a 140 JPEG with like red circles all over it? Like, this is an imposter. See, Sonic legs aren't this long.
Yes, it is exactly that actually. And it's kind of, to me, it's like a level of, it's a blurry line between dedication and obsession, where I feel like, you know what? I think that it's useful to have like the scholars of Sonic to tell us and to guide us, the blind people, toward the path of light. But then again, I'm like, okay, it's also just a video game character, and like, if the game is good, that's kind of all that matters. Like my example being Sonic Generations. Like, yeah, sure, I understand your frustration that Sega is looking at you in the face and going, classic Sonic is not the same as modern Sonic. Stop saying that. And I'm like, whoa, that is kind of like, they went at you for that. But I at the end of the day, I just like Sonic Generations, and it's a good game. I don't get that upset over whether or not this Sonic has a different color of blue and has a different facial expression, which, believe me, apparently he does. Go on.
It's tricky because like every version of Sonic seems to be like ever so slightly different, and so it's wild that like everyone has like, you know, the going back to our previous episode, like the ideal shape of form for Sonic, even though like it's completely different whether or not you grew up with like Sega Genesis or Sonic Adventure 2 or any of like the cartoon iterations or movie Sonic now. So
yeah,
like everyone's got their own version of Sonic.
Yes, but the thing with the fandom is that there is one true Sonic, and by him we shall swear allegiance. And it's like that's where I kind of draw the line. It's like, oh, like Sega will do a new Sonic game, and people will be like, it's Santiago again. They're gonna keep using this character. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Is that not Sonic? He looks like Sonic to me. I don't understand. And then I hear this was during the time that Sonic Superstars was announced, when I kind of found out about this whole thing. And then I'm like, well, at least Mario fans aren't like that. And then Mario Wonder came out, and they hired a new voice actor for Mario, and it happened all over again. It was like, this isn't the same. No, you can hear it right here. He sounds different. I don't like it. Change it back. Turn it back. I'm like, oh my god. I don't understand this level of dedication. And this is an example of like fans kind of adopting the brand mentality of a character, where like there's like this strict, there's like a style guide, a design Bible that none of us but them have read. And these companies must acquiesce and follow in, if they are to gain our trust in future IPs.
It's weird too, because like I feel like that is super important until the thing is good and it just doesn't matter.
Right, which is how I feel about both Sonic Generations and Mario Wonder. You know, like
the design doesn't matter until I don't like it.
And again, it's like, okay, so what's the problem with Mario voice? Does he not sound generic Italian enough for you? Like, I don't. What is that? What is exactly the issue here? I think it was time to give Charles Martinet a break. This is a welcome change as far as I'm concerned.
Definitely.
But then another interesting thing happens with once we enter the realm of film. We have a paradoxical open-mindedness from companies to just completely redesign their characters. This happened with both Sonic and Mario. Most famously Sonic, who got like probably the worst redesign in video game. No, I'm not gonna be that hyperbolic, but basically
it's rough though.
it got to the point where people rallied against it, and maybe for good reason, because it was pretty bad.
So it's interesting that we're comparing like Mario and Sonic, not just categorically, but also because like I feel like with Sonic, it feels like they're fighting to gain credibility back by making him more true to what people's version of Sonic in their head is. Mm-hmm, and they're using people like Tyson Hess, who are experts at like Sonic, to bring that more true version to life, make it more like the games. But then I feel like with Mario, you know, there were interviews on record where Miyamoto and team said that they wanted to change how Wonder was designed to bring people who were only familiar with movie Mario in and have like a bit more of a transition. You know, they used a lot more smear frames and a lot more of like that style of animation to kind of copy how the movie was. Mm-hmm. So it's almost the inverse. Like Sonic movies are fighting to be more like the games, and the Mario games are more like kind of onboarding people from the movies.
Yeah, I actually wonder what the next Mario game is going to look like because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I love the animation, at least of Wonder. It looks so much more like the original drawings of Mario. Mm-hmm. If anything, I think that's why it really worked for me, is because it did feel very true to its source, but like it picked a lane and it really stuck to it. It didn't matter that it was like the original drawings. It just like had a very clear inspiration.
Yeah, and I also like that it wasn't too influenced by the movie, even though I feel like both those games the game and the movie had to have been developed simultaneously. Could have easily been a vehicle, one for the other, but it wasn't. And I appreciate that it kept some kind of a unique style.
Yeah, I taking it in good faith, I feel like it was more of just a design sensibility. of like what types of more fluid, expressive animations, which I'm so thankful for, because the new Super Mario Brothers games they're so bland to me.
They got pretty dry after a while, especially by the time Deluxe came out. I'm like, okay, this again, I guess. It's the same game, thanks. But the interesting thing that I don't know, I keep thinking about this for some reason, but the fact that even game companies are willing to kowtow and like bend for Hollywood makes me wonder if even these very same game companies don't see the games medium as legitimate. This might be a bit of a hot take, but
no, I mean, I think there's always the movie quote unquote version is always like the most like iconic, truest version, or like that's like you've made it once, you're like a movie. Cause like you get that with stuff like One Piece, where Oda's talking about like, oh, he'd love to do a One Piece film, as though like the manga isn't the ideal form for that story to take shape.
Yeah. Okay, you hit the nail on the head. Like, why? So Mario is now like animated and realistic, and it's like, wait, so is this what he's supposed to look like from the beginning? Is that what I'm being told, when so much like marketing and branding is surrounded around this like new design of Mario, like almost Nintendo telling me this is the new Mario and this is the Mario? It's a little scary to think about, I guess.
I mostly just feel like it must be awkward to be working on like a Sonic game or a Mario game right now, because you have now these expectations of like a movie, which it's even harder for Mario because it's like Illumination is doing that, and they probably have some degree of oversight with Nintendo, but like there are people whose idea of like what Peach is only from the movies, and you know what, I still don't know what that character is supposed to be, so maybe it's not too difficult.
Another. Oh wow, we could talk about that too. No, and Peach is an interesting one too, because I remember when the movie came out, fans of Peach were like, I don't know, this isn't the character that I like, and again, it kind of put me in a position where, kind of like Terry, where I was like, okay, wait, who is Peach? Like, what are the defining characteristics of her? And all I can say is, again, very keen on pointing out what's wrong, but not really pointing out what's right. Although I will give credit, a lot of people did give me a straight answer for that one.
What, on Peach specifically?
Yeah, because a lot of people are like, well, Peach is supposed to be like more like she's girly, and that's fine. Like that. A lot of people brought the Subspace Emissary Peach cutscenes to kind of embody how they feel about the character. Like, yes, she is a princess, and that's fine. She's not supposed to be like subversive or against that. She kind of owns it. And I guess that's the big difference between her and her character in the movie, where in the movie it's 100% trying to be subversive, 100% trying to be like, I'm tired of being kidnapped, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then just leaving it there, like not giving her more than just that. Which is, it kind of makes you wonder, like, okay, well, this one character that I had no real, like, qualities that define her, I'm now finding like things I don't like about her. It's kind of interesting.
And I think that's just unfortunate. That's just human nature. Like, we're very good at identifying what is wrong or just doesn't feel right, but we're extremely bad at identifying like how to fix that, especially if it's in a field that we're not versed in, which is just everyone's gonna have opinions on stuff they don't know. So that's that just be like that. Sorry. So. Like, I don't know if I have like advice or anything for any other artist. It's like, that's just, you're just going to have to constantly explain your work to people that just don't art or don't want to think very hard about that kind of stuff.
Do you prefer Film Sonic or Film Mario?
I mean, Film Sonic, at least I feel like, has like a distinct personality.
Yeah, I was going to say Film Sonic too.
Which, like, I feel so, like, it's so unenviable to, like, how do you give personality to Mario, who's supposed to just kind of be, like...
Yeah.
like a palette for the rest of the story to happen upon. Like, he's just like a funny little guy. I don't know how you give that a character
He's a funny little guy. I feel like they were close at some points in the movie. They were so close to actually saying something with this character, and I was looking forward to it, and it just didn't happen.
He has like I swear he has the most personality in Super Mario RPG, just because at least then he like pratfalls when someone says something stupid.
I know, in a game where he like barely even talks.
Yeah, but he almost punches a child in that game.
True, he almost threw hands with a kid. It's just so funny to me that a game where he like says nothing, has zero dialogue, is fondly remembered as a game that defined his character.
I mean, because like it's like what you're saying, like it's a vibe, or like it's in how the humor of the character is portrayed says so much more about the character than like dialogue. You know, these are games, like they're played, they're felt, they're collections of ideas.
And that's good. And
they're not script necessarily.
I know. Oh, the film versus game is going to be an episode, isn't it? But sure. the you said that and you're like, no. I can hear it.
Just give me an interesting angle and we'll do it.
You know what? Okay, I will need to do that because that is a labored point. We don't even need to go into it.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess talking about these interpretations of Mario and Sonic, what are some of your favorite character interpretations, and what are your least favorite?
You go first.
Well, I think I already I talked about maybe one of my least favorite, which was Infinite, because you could kind of feel, Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, because I think you could feel where it was fighting with itself.
Do you have a specific character, when you say that, do you have a specific character you think of? Like, who comes to mind?
I mean, that's hard to say on that game, because I feel like it was more just all of Marvel. not to just be like crass or anything, but or reductive. But
I feel like most of Capcom characters too kind of suffered from this, like they just did not know what to do with them.
Yeah, because and they had to be more realistic to match the Marvel characters, so they lost kind of that anime flair.
Yeah, and also just. It was really bizarre to watch these characters that once had like the same level of relevancy become outweighed by like the MCU presence. Like every Capcom character next to a Marvel character now is like who are you? Aside from like Ryu maybe.
Yeah, you're right. It felt more like Marvel featuring Capcom and not Marvel versus
exactly.
Capcom.
Yeah. And it took me out of it so much. And again, it doesn't help when all the characters look the way they do. Like, we have Rad Spencer Rad Spencer is in the first game. He has a different name in the reboot. Nathan Spencer. Am I making this up? See, this character is just so nothing to me. Hold up. Yes, Nathan Spencer. Okay, I did have it right. So, this character shows up, and I'm like, you're in one game from 2011. Like, what are you doing here? Aside from the fact that you are genuinely an interesting character to play, you have a genuinely interesting moveset that pairs well with characters like Spider-Man, but no one knows who you are. In fact, the funny thing is I actually played this game and showed it to a friend of mine who's like really big into Marvel, and I kid you not, like aside from Chris Redfield and Ryu, every other Capcom character, he'd be like, who is that? And I'm like, oh my god, I have to explain to you who Mega Man X is. That's insane. That's how irrelevant he is. And I felt bad because it's like, that's my favorite character.
Damn.
Yeah, and again, it kind of... I feel like I answered your question for you. I apologize. You should...
No, I mean, I feel like we're... The character interpretations we don't like, I think, is not going to be as interesting as like ones we do like, which I do have some pretty concrete examples for that. I did homework.
Ooh, okay, let's hear it.
So I looked into just like a lot of different crossovers. I had a hard time thinking of ones just on my own on this for some reason. But first, Bomberman R has a bunch of crossover characters that are all drawn in the style of Bomberman, and they all look really good. Like Master Chief has the shape language of Bomberman, and it's super cute. It really works. Yeah. It has like Silent Hill characters that like actually kind of look cute.
You know what's funny is like I actually don't like the fact that there's Silent Hill characters in that game.
It is weird, but it works. Like they make it work. They make it work.
If you can just like focus on those little ball limbs, you're like, oh, that's cute.
I think Super Puzzle Fighter like does a really good job of like they're all in that chibi style, and they're all really consistently brought together. Even though they're all Capcom, I think that's less of a jump. But the fact that they transition so well to that style is really cool to me. But here is like, oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were done.
But no, my favorite, like by a wide margin, and I didn't realize this until I saw it, but Dante in Beautiful Joe looks like he was designed for Beautiful Joe. It's really good, and like he's like a tall, handsome guy, so like seeing him squashed down like that, you would not think would work. But like, look it up. He's like, it just.
I remember I played the PS2 version. Yeah.
It just feels like so right, and I don't know like how they did it in that style and made it land, but he looks cool. He looks dramatic. He's got his weapons, and he's like arched in like stylistic, actiony ways, even in that chibi style where he's got like 2 inches of limbs to work with. But I don't know. It works.
I feel like in a lot of ways, Beautiful Joe and Dante are kind of brothers, because they came from a lot of the same minds.
For sure. And maybe that is like what made that work was the fact that it's all coming from like that Clover, Grasshopper, Capcom ex employees, that they can kind of have similar, like the artists are coming from similar origins. So maybe that just translates better. But like it did. Beautiful Joe's like a little guy. He does not look like a Dante, and it would be weird to imagine Beautiful Joe like normal size,
like tall. Yeah. Although I would like to see that,
Yeah, no, especially if it can work one way. Like clearly, someone made a miracle happen. Let's do it again. But what about you? What's your favorite character adaptation?
I did mention it already. It's my first love, which will always be Marvel vs. Capcom 1, the Versus series. Just the how they brought that strong stylization in the pixel art to every character in a way that unified them. It like absolutely destroyed it. And then like I'm already going through that shock, and from the corner of the screen, fucking Spider-Man showed up, and I was just not ready.
I love how wowed as a concept you are of like, what if Mega Man was cool?
I mean, because like. Classic Mega to me.
No, like, but that's just Mega Man X. Like that's just what
exactly. Like X already was like the cool one. So I was like, in my mind, classic Mega Man was either cute or cute and cool, like that Powerpuff Girls appeal, but never just like straight up cool. Like seeing him turn into a giant like Mazinger robot and just beam the fuck out of you. It was incredible. And again, like seeing Gambit, Wolverine, Captain America in that like Street Fighter Alpha, like highly stylized, colorful style, it opened my mind to like, wow, you can interpret characters differently. Like there's like different ways to look at the same character, and that was very important to me as a young artist. Just the ability, like being told that that's possible was enough for me to like let my imagination soar, which is why I always hold MVC1 dearly as an artist and as as a gamer. It's a pretty decent game.
Yeah. Would you call Mega Man X an adaptation of Mega Man?
No, because X is a different character.
Really?
Yeah. X is considered a different character.
Okay.
And as such, even back then, I kind of accepted it. Like, this is not the same character. This is a new This is like Mega Man's big brother. So no, I never saw it as an adaptation. However, I feel like Zero versus Mega Man Zero can be like that. I can accept as like, oh, this is a new interpretation of this character. And
you're talking about the GBA game specifically, yeah.
Yes. Like that jump from X to Z. To me feels more interpretive, even though at first we all thought it was canon to the same timeline, but later on they retcon that and it's a new timeline. It's whatever, but like I still feel like that was more of an evolution of the same character rather than like X being like a new form of an older character. Seeing Mega Man like just a little bit taller and a little bit cooler destroyed my 12-year-old brain.
This is an excellent transition to our next talking point. How can a character's style evolve over different games in a franchise? Can one version of a character ever be more canon than another?
Oh, what do you mean by that? Wait, I didn't tell you who my least favorite is.
Okay, who's your least favorite?
You know, I actually thought about this, and it's not an exciting answer, but I think about it a lot. Have you ever played Hyrule Warriors?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know Hyrule Warriors.
The original Hyrule Warriors was kind of a crossover Zelda game, which is the reason it's fucking amazing. And one of the final DLC characters I was very excited about, I was very hyped. It was Marin from Link's Awakening.
Yeah, I know that one only because I use that a lot for reference in my Windfish figure.
Yeah, that character model is perfect for fan art. However, when she finally launched and I downloaded her and I was like so excited, I'm like, let's go unlock her, and I got her and I started playing as her. I went, oh, this sucks. What happened? Like all she does is swing the bell around. There's no references to Link's Awakening. There's no like deep cuts. You know how young Link in Hyrule Warriors uses like the fierce deity mask, and that's cool, and he summons the moon, and that's cool. But I was expecting that for Marin. Like I wanted her to use like all the instruments. I wanted her to use like, because again I'm like, oh crap, she's here and she's gonna do cool things. All she does is swing the little bell around, which is one instrument, and then the Windfish slaps everyone. And when I saw that, I was like, what the fuck? This doesn't even make sense canonically. So that was really disappointing. Like I was like, finally some pixel era Zelda representation in Hyrule Warriors, and it was just so disappointing.
Yeah, no, I can see how the lack of the same level of care put to her versus any other character is just a bummer.
It felt like people who didn't play Link's Awakening designed her moves. I hate to say it. Anyway,
I wouldn't be surprised if she's like the last character. Maybe it is just like it was
close to the last character. I believe it was either her or the bad guy from Link Between Worlds. But anyway.
But yeah, so we were talking about characters' style evolving over different games, and if one version can be more canon than another.
Ah, I see what you're saying.
But yeah, so we were talking about Mega Man, and like Mega Man X comes out, and I feel like that's a beloved game spin-off, but like I feel like most people would like refer to like classic Mega Man as like the Mega Man. Yeah. Even though for a time in the 90s, like Mega Man was Mega Man X.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And like
I guess before people knew that Mega Man was going to continue, like classic Mega Man.
Yeah, and even though like I would say my favorite version of Mega Man is Mega Man Legends, like that's not like the Mega Man to me.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily that it's just like your favorite version, but you know, yeah, I feel, but you know, Mega Man I think isn't a good example because that's like the first iteration of that character is kind of like what everyone imagines as that character, but like there's been plenty of game series where I feel like later iterations of a character, like Samus in Metroid, you know, I feel like the way we see Samus is more based off of like Prime and Zero Mission.
Yeah, Zero Mission especially. Or you know what? Hot take kind of, but Smash Brothers is the way people see Samus is 100% from Smash Brothers. I was drawing Zero Suit Samus recently and remembering how different her design was in Zero Mission compared to Brawl. So
I mean, she's got the boots and the whip, which is a little bit of a weird take, but
yeah, that was an Ultimate. In Brawl, she just had the gun.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, in Brawl, and her face was different in Brawl too. In Ultimate, they 100% waifu'd the fuck out of her, and that unfortunately is like the way a lot of people see Samus now. And in my opinion, to answer your question, partially, to me that's not the real Samus. That's not canon Samus. To me, it's Zero Mission. Like that's the real. Like look at pictures of her. They draw her differently. They give her like very strong facial features. She's like not as curvy. She's just kind of like there, and you know it's so different from what people perceive her as right now.
Yeah, no, I mean she has definitely had more like masculine facial features, let's say, in
I'm not going to call them
iterations.
masculine. I'm going to call them strong.
Yeah, sorry. But yeah, like sharper like jaw lines, like less curvy. In older iterations, it's like
she was just supposed to be tough. Like, she was supposed to be tough and cool. And Ultimate doubled down and it's like, no, she's sexy. She's waifu. You can look at her. I'm like, okay. Not my Samus hashtag, I guess. But that kind of and yeah, like, I think Smash Bros. Is a kind of an interesting case study for this thing, because a lot of people's idea of characters come from that game, like specifically for Nintendo properties, like Captain Falcon, who hasn't had a game, so there's no way to like there is no canon Captain Falcon except for Smash Brothers.
Yeah, God, that he wasn't really a character until Smash Brothers, you know. I mean, like
he kind of was.
He had vibes and stuff, but like, you know, he became like a tokusatsu character after after Smash Brothers.
Definitely redefined who he was. He was no longer like a bounty hunter with like a gunslinging bounty hunter. He definitely was more like a superhero type, which is fine. That's also part of, like, in F-Zero X, that's kind of when they started leaning hardcore into the more American comic book style.
Yeah, definitely. So this is less about like a specific character, but like I feel like style-wise, you know, the Persona games changed very drastically between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
And like I love the art style of Persona 1 and 2 being closer to Shin Megami Tensei and that specific artist's direction. But I do think the more sort of, I don't have maybe a good word for it, but like that more kind of traditional anime style, more modern anime style, I think fits better for, you know, these cool, like attractive teens that are like going on fun adventures together and romancing each other. Like that makes more sense to be kind of this more anime style than sort of this more like dark modern fantasy look of Persona 1 and 2.
Did you ever read interviews with the artists? I think his name is Kazuma Kaneko. About how that specific approach and style was supposed to be subversive, because he saw SMT and Persona as like a subversive series. Like, these characters look unconventional because they're rebellious. And it's interesting that the character designs have those roots when the later games change the style, but they still try to keep those themes. You know what I mean?
It is unfortunate, because I feel like the Persona 3 onward like tries to be very rebellious, but it's maybe more that in its plot, but it doesn't really carry that language. It doesn't really pay that off, I don't think.
Oh, you mean like in general, like not just visually, but like story-wise?
Yeah, like Persona 4 is about rebellion, but you know, that game ultimately is about like conforming to societal expectations.
I kind of feel that way about Persona 5, where like it has a very powerful initial message where it's like, no, you don't have to put up with this bullshit. And yeah, everybody is putting up a performance. Everyone is just wearing a mask. But then at the end of the day, it's like, well, the bad guys will feel really bad about things eventually, so don't worry.
Yeah. But yeah, so even though I like the style of Persona 1 and 2 more, like I feel like the tone-wise, what the games are going for now, like I don't think it would make sense to have that darker style. You know, same with like Fire Emblem. Like I love the original style so much. But like,
when you say original, which game do you think of?
I'm talking like the watercolor drawings of like Gaiden, like that era of art. I love those, but like I don't think that would make sense for Awakening, which is this, you know, much more charismatic like band of anime friends. And I think that's like kind of the canon version of like how Fire Emblem is depicted now.
Yeah, now it's very much, you know, there's a little bit of overlap with the Persona fandom in terms of like the kind of appeal and demographic they're going for.
Yeah, and would you say that like kind of the let's say Awakening onward is like kind of the canon version of what like a Fire Emblem character is? Like, honestly, it's like it's Smash Brothers, really. Let's be real. Like that's what a Fire Emblem character looks like if you ask someone to describe that.
Yeah, I feel like I mean, I would argue that it started as early. Oh, excuse me. I would argue that it started as early as like the GBA Fire Emblems.
That's fair, because that is a little bit different of a style than like the original series of like.
And they always had like the most mainstream anime appeal style to them, even the originals. Because I remember I played Moncho no Nazo on Super Famicom before it was translated. I actually brute forced my way through half of that.
Oh my goodness.
Just not knowing any Japanese. And it's surprisingly intuitive. I was able to make it that far just on symbols alone. But yeah, from the beginning, I feel like it always had, as opposed to Persona, I don't feel like there's as big of a jump. However, in terms of like mainstream appeal, yeah, they definitely polished things up to make it more like welcoming to new players. Like Awakening was definitely, I like to say the Sonic Adventure 2 of Fire Emblem, where like the old fandom was kind of like, okay, you know, I guess this is where things really change now. And then the new fans coming in like, oh, this is Fire Emblem? Wow, awesome. This will define every Fire Emblem from here on out for me. And none of that is necessarily a bad thing, but it does change the perspective of it does change like the perspective of the games themselves. Like when devs make these games now, they think of those fans. So yeah, it's fair to say that it has changed.
That is an interesting point. It's like that. I feel like it almost like once a reception gets strong enough, whether by fans or even internally, like that's kind of what marks the series from then moving onward. Like you have to now look at it through a lens of like, what is this new Fire Emblem like in terms of Awakening, in terms of Three Houses? Like that game sold incredibly well, was received incredibly well, and like they certainly took it in a different direction with Engage, and I feel like that didn't work very well for them.
Yeah, honestly, I hardly hear anyone talk about Engage the same way people talked about Three Houses.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because like I have looked at the work of that the artists they got for that, and I think that they're talented, but I don't think their style worked for Fire Emblem being so maximalist.
I guess also it had like a modernization, and again, these are not things that came out of nowhere. Like I feel the Three Houses started really pushing for like a contemporary fantasy aesthetic, and then Engage pushed it even further to the point where it was like,
no, it's more like high fashion, like,
like cosplay bait is how I like to call
like
it.
VTuber, like it's in that design language, for better and unfortunately for worse.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't even know if that bears anything toward the gameplay. Like I don't know if that makes the game good or bad because I haven't played it, so I'm not really in a position to really judge it too harshly.
So, why don't we wrap things up with our closing thoughts, where we take a moment to summarize what we discussed and what we want to take away from this topic. Jorge, how would you summarize what should a character look like?
I think that it's vibes.
Yeah.
I think it's vibes, but I do think that, I just ask people to at least, when you ask for something, that you know what you're asking for. Like, I think my biggest frustration is not that I don't want people to come out of this with a takeaway like, oh, we just don't know what Terry looks like. No, I think the issue is that in general, we don't know what we want, and we need to be better at asking for it. In the case of Terry Bogard, if you don't like how he looks like, say what he's supposed to look like. You might learn something about yourself. You might learn something about Terry Bogard. And that applies to every character, really. And if once you realize what you like, you'll start gravitating towards a lot of things you like even more. And that's how we find out who our favorite characters are.
Yeah, I think it can be tricky if you get into that echo chamber of like kind of forcing yourself to see what a character looks like. When I think my takeaway is that like character design is a very, it is so contemporary. It is so evolving, and like what it means to be that character is going to constantly change. Even though like, a lot of people's ideal Sonic might be something that is influenced on a very specific, history on what is cool for a mascot character. And that's not the same anymore. Sonic's cool it changes every year. So
it does, but I do feel like the Sonic fans know what they want. Like when the movie, again, they know what they want too much. Like it gets over analytical, but also when the movie Sonic got redesigned and the new design got revealed, people were like, hey, that's it. That's what we want.
Yeah, it was because that design was fun. It was charming and energetic in a way that was not captured. So it's like, you're right. Like there's an idea we have of like what a character means, but like it can be interpreted through so many different ways.
Yeah. And there's a beauty in that too. I feel, I think art to some extent should be malleable. We can't just, and this is where I feel like my fears of art becoming brands, it at the core is the fear that like we just won't allow art to be art. We just want everything to be a product for consumption.
And I think that's where it gets messy, is like so much of this. Yeah, you're right. It's looking at it as brands and not as like what do I actually like about the series, and how is this being represented in this other thing? What is this other thing adding to it? Even if it's Fortnite, like even if it's giving Chun-Li an M16, like what about that might be interesting? You know, should she like spinning bird kick the gun away when she like tosses it behind her? Like, how do we interpret this in a way that's fun and interesting and like new, but also faithful to what this character does?
Right, and it starts with you.
So,
all right.
I think this brings us over to the question zone.
Welcome to the question zone. Get ready.
Yes, we've solicited a number of questions. You can contact us at brainlordspod@gmail.com. Our first inquiry is from Tornado92, who says, what is your ideal new characters for a Smash Brothers game? I think this is in reference to our previous episode.
Goodness! Holy shit, we're gonna be here all night.
Let's stick to maybe 2 or 3 tops.
All right. I'll stick to 2.
So what
first, though?
Me first?
Yes, because do you need time to think? I'll say it. I'll just
go ahead.
I'll fucking ramble.
Go.
So my number one choice, and it will always be my number one choice. My figure of her's not here. Damn it. Is Arl from Puyo Puyo and Carbuncle in a team, like a ice climber situation. I want all of their B moves to be like Puyo. I want there to be like the ability to like clear Puyos in the field, and then just like reference the early Mado Monogatari games where like she can cast spells too. That kind of shit would be so awesome, and I've been fantasizing about it ever since there was a tiny little teaser on the Smash Brothers Twitter of Daisy and Isabelle looking like Arl and Carbuncle, and I will never forgive you, Sakurai, for doing this to me. I'm still hurt by it. My prayer circle did not work. I tried to summon this character into the game, and I did not succeed.
What I like about that is, like, you have a clear vision of, like, no, this character plays like this, and it has, like, a distinct style. Because I think that's what the last couple of characters, besides just fan service, were. And Ultimate was just Sakurai going, like, I want to make fighting games that I like. I'm tired of Smash Brothers. Let me make King of Fighters. Which I can't blame him. He's been doing it for years.
What I genuinely like about Smash Bros. Is like every character plays in a way you don't expect. There's always a surprise to them, and like every time I see someone's wish list and they list their moves, I'm like, this is so boring. Like, okay, the side B moves forward, the down B attacks down, the up B, like, come on, this is like, the game doesn't operate like this. There's so much uniqueness to it, and that's why I feel like you could bring so much more interesting characters if you just like went for the deep pulls instead of what like the shit everyone wants. Anyway, my second character is Chibi Robo, and we only got a
that's good.
We only got a fucking me costume out of it.
Well, that one I like a lot too, because like the design for like the attacks is just like any household item. I
had the toothbrush, I had the whip, the zip line, in my head, like all these things. It could have been good. It could have been so cool.
I think anyway. This is not the most exciting answer, but I was always a fan of Shantae being in there because she is like a classic GB character, and it's pretty easy to like. Yeah, she transforms for different moves, and like she has the hair whip. Like I think there's just a lot there to work from. It's not necessarily an exciting
that,
character. It's not like an original request. This one
she got a spirit.
Yeah.
You got.
And then Marina Light Years, I think, would be really fun.
Oh, let's go! Now we're talking.
Well, because that one is like, how do you do a grapple character in Smash Brothers in a way that's actually fun?
Yo, she would like grab you off the air and toss you into the goddamn pit. It would be so dope. And she would look cute as fuck too. Like, just those proportions are perfect for like a Smash Bros. Character.
Can you imagine mashing the taunt and just like every time you kill your opponent, just shake, 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 shake.
Yo, not even that. Like, while you're grabbing the opponent, you're like, okay, this is the only character that if you press the direction button, she will shake you instead of throw you. It would be so dope. And we would get a Mischief Maker stage, which will also be amazing. Again, this is another thing people don't think about. Like,
actually, getting the music from that.
Get the music. Get like, oh my god, you like maybe the stage, oh my god, the stage was just like lava and that giant like dinosaur guy like punching you and shit.
Oh yeah, with the spike hands.
Yes, with those treasure ball joints. Oh my god, like keep the ball joints, please. See, now we're cooking. All
right, what's our next question?
This one is from Hellhouse MD. Dream crossover, go!
Dream crossover.
Yep, like something versus something.
Okay, let's say I feel like every time I was looking up all the crossovers, like it's almost always fighting games.
Yeah, but you can also, I don't know if you ever played like Project Cross Zone, where it's like less of a fighting game, more like a real-time or a turn-based strategy RPG with like characters that you can just like combo moves with. It's pretty fun. I don't know if you ever tried it.
I don't think I have.
And it's also the ultimate like fangasm game. Like, just put everybody in there. I can tell you what I thought of the other day that I thought was pretty dope.
Okay, what's that?
It'll be exciting only to me. I wanted a... Well, first of all, I always wanted like Sega to have like a crossover fighting game, like evolve with like multiple Sega characters. I also always wanted like a Squaresoft, or sorry, oh my god, the boomer came out. The Square Enix like crossover fighting game. I would have thought that would be awesome too. But I kind of want, like, this is the weirdest thing. Like a Falcom versus Taito crossover game would be amazing to me. It's just like the most obscure shit. Although like Bub and Bob are not obscure. Bubble Bobble is Taito, so you could totally have those be like the draw characters. But Falcom, like, people haven't played East or Popful Mail, but man, seeing those characters in a crossover would be awesome.
Okay, I have my answer, and it's there was a fighting game that had a bunch of like weird indie game characters, but it did not feel good at all.
I think I know what you're talking about. Is it? No, because that was the really bad one. I don't think that's the one you're talking about.
It had quote from Cave Story, and it had like the girl with the fishing line.
Yeah. Oh, okay. You're talking about damn it! It was from Why am I forgetting? No, go on.
Yeah, I was so disappointed in that game because I so badly wanted to like do Cave Story. So I want like the good version of that like lets you play as all the indies. The girl. I can at least remember the girl. The girl with the fishing line is Umisawa like Kawase or something like that.
Yeah. But that's a... I'm just trying to remember the company that publishes those games now.
Yeah, but so I want the game where like you have Quo, and then you've got like Matatsuki from Yume Nikki. You have like Ebe from...
You're talking about Blade Strangers. I remember that.
That's it, yeah. So yeah, I want them to go hard on the indies. I want to punch Braid Guy in the face. Like, really hard.
You know what's kind of sad is that they've tried to do this before. There's a lot of like the indie crossover fighting game, and you'll have like really recognizable characters in what is unfortunately like an okay fighting game. You know what I mean? I think the closest we've come to that is Rivals, like having like a decent indie crossover fighter.
Okay, I'm refining my answer. I want RPG Maker fighting game, specifically RPG Maker. So it's like Yume Nikki, Lisa
RPG Maker games.
Yeah, Lisa the Painful, Hylix, Off.
Wow.
Space Funeral. I want that fighting game.
All right, I support this crossover. Maybe they won't fight. Maybe they'll just be friends. Or Brad's gonna kill them all.
That's it. Yeah, in the fighting game, the ultimate like level is to just talk to everyone and just kind of hash out your problems in the RPG Maker game.
There you go. Thank you. Wouldn't that be? I want more hybrid genres like that. You know, I don't know why they don't do that more.
So, finally, I'd like us to end with a trip to the Rec Room, where we recommend something outside and inside the world of video games that might complement our panel. Jorge, do you have any recommendations for things in and out of the world of video games?
Nothing that has to do with what we were talking about, but I saw the director's cut of Lawnmower Man the other day.
Yeah?
And that movie is a trip.
Do you have a point of reference for like the director's versus the non-director's cut? Would you say that's like the definitive way to see it?
I actually think it is. Like, normally I don't like director's cut kind of movies. Very rarely do I think they're better than the original. In this case, it kind of is better than the original, because the original was kind of sold to just be like a horror movie about a guy that like gets sucked into the internet and has too much power. But in the director's cut, you get to see like just what extent of power he has. They go into the philosophical side of it. They get kind of Ghost in the Shell about it, which is amazing. And it's goofy as fuck. It's got Pierce Brosnan before he was cool, so they don't know what to do with him in this movie. It's kind of excellent. It's a, you know, you can enjoy it on its merits, and it's also kind of a so bad it's good movie. So it's great to watch in a group.
Well, it's nice too that like it's got maybe a bit of that like cheesiness, but it still is like earnest, I guess.
Yeah, it wants to say something. Like, it actually reminded me, because I recently read Ghost in the Shell 2, the manga, a few months ago, and I was like, oh, there's parts of the manga that talk about this. And it's just having those two level works of art just side by side.
That is, honestly, though, actually, saying like Lawnmower Man and Ghost in the Shell seem like actually a pretty good pair together.
It's in a lot of ways, but also... there's a bit of whiplash. I'll just say that.
Certainly. What about a video game related?
Oh, video game. I just found out that speaking of Popful Mail and East, I found out that the PC 88 versions of these games are in the eShop. Earlier, when I was talking about my crusade into fucking the anime hentai game hell in the Switch eShop, the one good thing that came out of it is that I discovered a lot of PC 88 games are being released on the Switch, and two of my favorites are on there, Popful Mail and the original East Book 1. I highly recommend these games. Unfortunately, these are not translated, so you're gonna need a companion to play them with, but both of them are so ahead of their time. Like, East especially, for being a game that came out in 88, does so much that modern games to this day still do. It's kind of amazing. Well,
also, I feel like a lot of the translation, like phone picture tools that you have nowadays are so complex that they make it almost like doable. It takes a lot of work, but
you remember Princess Crown, right?
Yeah,
I was playing that with my phone, just translating text constantly. And it works just fine, like when there's important dialogue, and that's all you need. But yeah, highly recommend East and Popful Mail on PC 88. If you can, if you the really old shit ain't for you, play the TurboGrafx version of East and the Sega CD version of Popful Mail.
My gaming related thing, actually I'm almost done with that game I was telling you about, Frog Monster. And it went from like from like a cool little indie to like, I think honestly one of my favorite games this year.
That's really good. That's
good. It just, so if you haven't heard of Frog Monster at all, it's very much a first-person shooter where you're a little frog and you're exploring a big voxel, square pixel 3D world. And it's sort of cutesy, but it's sort of atmospheric. Like, things can be very scary at times, but it's not a horror game. It just is spooky sometimes, but like it just hits this wonderful loop of like, you do a couple of encounters with enemies just sort of along a path, and they, this one charges at you, this one like flies away and shoots projectiles at you, and then you get into a combat arena where it like gives you a couple of waves of these in different combinations in different like environments, and then maybe you explore a little bit more, you get some money, you get some like upgrade items, some keys, and then you do a boss encounter, which really pushes like all the skill sets you have. And the bosses are like, they have very distinct tells, almost like a Souls game, where they have these strong visual cues to on how to dodge them. You beat the boss, you usually get like a new ability or a new weapon, and then you just repeat that loop. You explore in a new biome that has like, oh, this is a yellow leaf forest, or this is like a creepy sewer. And like, there have been some like genuinely really cool concepts that like I was actually really surprised. Like way late in the game, I was fighting enemies that are, once they see that you've noticed them, they turn invisible, but they're always in rooms with mirrors on them or with hanging like chandeliers. So you can see their shadows or their reflections in the mirrors, and you have to use that as a reference point to fire your gun. And so there's just some like really cool concepts. The game can be a little frustrating at times, but like if you liked like Doom 2016, but you want something maybe a little bit more cutesy, like give it a try. It's pretty good.
Yes, I promise I will.
Yeah, it has some pain points. Like it's definitely the guy's first game. I don't know the gender of the director here, but it's their first game, and there's been some like sometimes the music is a little rough, and sometimes I've like bosses were just like this one is a little bit too hard in an unfun way. But like it's amazing for someone's first published game.
Yeah, I think with that kind of thing, I tend to be more forgiving anyway.
Yeah,
so it's not really a big deal if it's rough around the edges.
But yeah, and the non-gaming related thing I'd like to recommend is a movie called Hundreds of Beavers. Have you heard of this, Jorge?
Okay. No, I need you to elaborate.
Hundreds of Beavers is a 2023 silent film about a man that works as like he makes cider until his vast storages of alcohol are ruined by some beavers, and he wakes up in the wintertime and has to survive, and then he has to learn what it takes to be a trapper, and eventually gets caught up in sort of the plot of what the beavers have been up to, gathering all this wood, and it's just genuinely one of the funniest movies I've seen in a long, long time. And it does an excellent job of translating like Looney Tunes style physical humor to human actors, because all the animals in this movie are either puppets or they're people wearing mascot uniforms.
Okay, you sold me on it.
Mm-hmm. Right. And honestly, what I really liked about this video game and how I pitched it to a friend is like, I told them, you're gonna see
Wait, is it a movie? Or
it's a movie. It's a movie.
Oh, okay.
But what I'm getting at is that I told them, you're going to look at this movie and like the go-to praise is going to be, oh, this is like Looney Tunes in real life.
Yeah.
But secretly, the humor is not Looney Tunes. The humor is Super Mario RPG.
Okay.
Like it gets sort of like the timing and sort of the isms of video games in a way that like only a movie that is not about a video game could do. Like the lead character, he's like learning his route through like becoming a trapper, and he's drawing his own little map, and so he goes through this loop of like, okay, I gotta go through this dense forest where like there's all these like these beavers leaving traps for me, and then I gotta go through this like icy river where I'm always like getting stuck and like falling on my face. And then I go by the dam that the beavers are building up, and he keeps going like around and around this map in a loop. And like I was joking to Sophia, I'm like, this is like a roguelike. Like he's doing his run, and each time he's getting a little bit stronger. Like when like they know what they're doing, because like when the animals notice him, like they'll have question marks or exclamation points over their heads, like Animal Crossing, and like. It's something he'll sneak through like an encounter, and I'm like, this is just Metal Gear Solid. Like, no one who has made this movie has not played Metal Gear Solid. It just, I don't know. It was like the best video game movie I've ever seen.
They tend to be not related to video games at all. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, Hundreds of Beavers, just genuinely really, really funny.
Hundreds of Beavers. I will make how long is it?
Hour and 40 minutes, hour and 50.
Oh, so it's just like regular film length. Okay, all right.
I just rented it for like $2. So this has been Brainlords. You can find us on Twitter at BrainlordsPod. You can find me on social medias, Cute Monster Props, or my website, cutemonsterprops.com. Jorge, where can they find you?
You can find me in the trash. I am J-Man Velez. That's JManVelez on pretty much every social media and gallery site.
Yes, and questions, comments, and inquiries can go to brainlordspod@gmail.com, and you can find us on YouTube and all other places where podcasts are born. Thank you for listening. Now go prove the justice of our culture, and go rescue heroes.
I love that we still do that.
I'm sticking with it. It's a good one. Until we think of something else.
No, let's not. Keep it. Oh, it's one of the best endings ever. All right. See ya.
Bye.
Ronaldinho success!